analog horror. Now, this is a subgenre of horror which deals with creating dread using technology which is far removed from the technology that we have right now. Anything with magnetic tapes, think like VHS, radio, landlines, your pre-internet that you had. So all of these technologies are used to create dread, and uh, it can incorporate ghosts, monsters, and all of these things come in the analog horror genre. Think The Ring, think any tech-based creepypastas that you used to listen to back then. And so a subgenre which induces nostalgia, involves cryptic messages and these weird horrific creatures. It's ripe with potential to create a tabletop role-playing game. And I could think of none better to design a horror-based tabletop role-playing game with all of these qualities than the most intelligent game designer I know so far, called Jason Cordova.
The first time we spoke, he spoke about inspirations like Murder She Wrote was, your and Agatha Christie novels were the kind of things for Brindlewood Bay. And when we came to the Between, and I'm looking forward to the book, Penny Dreadful was your inspiration. Is there a similar touchstone or touch point we can point to for public access?
Yeah, public access is very much inspired by analog horror, urban legends, and creepypastas. And so really anything kind of in that realm is a good touch point. Yeah. But the most direct reference is probably the creepypasta story Candle Cove. It's really easy to, it's a quick read. It's like a 10-minute read. Yeah. And the idea behind Candle Cove is it's a group of people on this internet forum who all remember this kid's TV show that no one else remembers. And they're kind of just like sharing their memories of this TV show that only they can remember. And it's really weird and creepy. Public access takes a lot of inspiration from that because it's about a group of young people in 2004 who they met on an online forum also. And this forum is about people who remember this old TV station that no one can, like, only they can recall. There's no evidence this TV station actually existed. Yeah. And so they kind of get together, in person one summer to like investigate the mystery of this TV station. And so, yeah, Candle Cove is a great touchstone. Yeah.
I remember spending a lot of time on the internet looking up creepypastas. Now, this was back in 2000, mid 2000s, late 2000s. I think it was the best era of the internet. I spent a lot of time looking up creepypastas, looking up those very strange YouTube videos of things that were going wrong, whether it was related to, jinn and jinnats, and some of them were about, tech-based things. And I feel like it's the perfect inspiration for a game like public access creepypastas.
A public access TV station or a public access channel, it was this cable TV channel. This would have been like in the 80s and 90s, where if you were a tax-paying member of the public, you could reserve time on the channel for your own production. And so it was a little bit like YouTube before YouTube. So if you lived in that community, you could record yourself, doing your own little cooking show or doing you talking about your thoughts, your conspiracy theories, whatever. And then you could reserve time and they would air your program on this one channel as a public service. And so I don't know if you're familiar with the movie Wayne's World.
But I was going to say,
is
it Wayne's World?
Wayne's World, yeah. Wayne's World, in the fiction of Wayne's World was a public access TV show, right? So
I was literally going to ask that.
Yeah. So these were programs that were like filmed in people's basements, in their backyards, and they were very low budget. And the idea was you could just put your thing out there. And so there was this one channel reserved for the public. And often these, and sometimes it was not just a channel. There was an actual like TV studio as well. Like you could sometimes go to a TV studio and actually record your thing, right? And so the thing about it though, and what makes it so fun as a kind of a medium for horror is these programs were always very low budget, but also they were often very strange, because it's just like people in the community, and sometimes there are people in the community who are maybe a little isolated or a little crazy, or or they don't, like they're like weird kind of social outcasts, but here they are on this TV station, like, and this is very like, this sort of American style of being is very like paranoia and conspiracy theory. That's kind of our whole jam in the United States, and like on some level, everyone has some paranoia and conspiracy theorist in them, and so this was like perfect for that really particular American vibe, right? Of like, the government's out to get us. There's aliens, there's this, there's that, right? And so it was always like a thing you could turn on just to see like strange things, right? Like and in the game, we take that to the next level, because now we have this weird TV station that disappears and is gone, and no one knows what happened to it. No one even remembers it except these characters. But they're occasionally finding tapes that have episodes of the TV programs that aired on this station. It's called TV Odyssey. That's the name of the station. And so you watch these tapes, and the tapes are strange things like, a weird puppet show filmed in some guy's basement, and there's a kid down there who's clearly under duress, or that's very creepypasta, right? Or a cooking show where the host very clearly just murdered someone off screen, right? Like you get these like really like horrifying, like kind of little vignettes essentially. And in the game you role play that, you play out the story of the tape of the episode, and then that buried within that, there's a clue as to what happened to the TV station, right? And so, yeah, it's this really creepy, like uncanny, liminal, strange kind of horror. It's analog horror. It's found footage horror. It's this idea of the mundane being slightly off and upsetting, and that's kind of what public access is,
Reminds the way you described it. I watched a movie recently called "I Saw the TV Glow."
It's that's another great touchstone for the game, actually. Yeah. Fun fact: Jane Schunbrunn, the creator of I Saw the TV Glow, as well as the excellent movie We're All Going to the World's Fair, Jane Schunbrunn, they wrote a book called Public Access, like a novel. And I'm not even sure if it's out yet, but they were like planning this book. But I have it on good authority that they changed the name of the book to Public Access Aftermath because of my game. Because they didn't want that. Yeah. Yeah, we have like a mutual connection, and I've been led to believe that they changed the name of the book so that it wouldn't like get confused with my game, which was very nice and touching, because I love Jane's movies. So yeah, it was really cool.
Yeah. Now, this part is important because it deals with who the players will actually be playing. The latchkeys, or a latchkey kid. Now, who's a latchkey kid? I am a latchkey kid. As Jason will explain pretty soon who latchkeys were when it comes to, mid-80s or 70s USA. It also felt true for me living here in India, because I used to come home and I would have like 3 to 5 hours to myself when nobody was at home. I used to let myself in, whether it was to cook, clean, play games, watch some TV, or do some other shenanigans, go out into the wild, find something, go into some abandoned house or some abandoned things with my friends to play, I guess. Those are the things that the latchkeys did, and that's why this game felt so close to home for me.
Jason, were you a latchkey kid?
I was. I don't know should I define latchkey kid? Yeah. So a latchkey kid, this was a really popular thing, a term at least in the 70s and 80s, in the United States at least. I don't know about other parts of the world, but the idea was there's like a period of time between like 3 p.m. and 5 p.m. where like school is out for the kids, but mom and dad are not yet home from work. And so you would come home and you would like lock the door, like that's the latchkey part. You would lock the door and you know, and hang out for a little bit until mom and dad got home. And that little period of time was always like, okay, I'm going to have a snack. I'm going to put on a video. I'm going to maybe play a video game, start my homework, like whatever I'm going to do in that little period. That was like the, you know, it was called being a latchkey, right? Because at this time in the United States, a lot of women were like, you know, in the workforce. And so it wasn't like you didn't have like the traditional, like, you know, stay at home mom thing as much, you know? So yeah, there was this like concept of the latchkey kid, you know, and back then it was looked down upon. Like if you were a latchkey kid, it was like your parents didn't love you or something, you know. It was like oh, you just are left at home, you know. Like it was kind of like looked down upon a little bit. But in hindsight, like it's just the way the world was then, and like that's, you know, that's just and I think that like looking back on it, like some of my favorite like childhood memories where that was that kind of like alone time, you know, when I got to discover the movies I liked and the music I liked and the video games I liked and like all that kind of stuff without anybody like looking over my shoulder, you know.
Yeah, I think there's a bit of, especially when you mention like it being looked down upon, there's a bit of classism at work.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well,
Yeah.
Over there.
Yeah.
And I'll be honest, I didn't realize that this was a term because it's not a term, I guess, that was widely used out of the United States.
It's not even used now, really, in the United States. It's kind of a dead term. Yeah.
But I was a latchkey kid.
Uh-huh.
I grew up in a small industrial town. Father was out for work, mother was out for work, and I would have like 3, 4, 5 hours to myself, and I could do like just whatever. I was alone at home. Even when I was growing up in like the early 2000s, so we were just moving away from the analog era, and especially in India, and more into the digital space. Like CDs and DVDs were becoming more popular back then because, in honesty, like India, things were imported to India quite later.
Yeah, sure.
As opposed to US and other big cities. Plus, we were a small town, so we didn't used to get a lot of things as well. So I used to go whatever money I could find, whatever things I could find. I would usually go buy cassettes, or like DVDs. I had like a very bad VCD player, which I could like rent movies in and just play that. And it actually took me back so much to actually going through your actual plays and reading through the book. It took me back to my childhood, like, okay, shit, like this is way too close to home.
Good.
My city is like almost half haunted. There's so many abandoned shit, and we like like, oh shit, what the hell happens here? It's kind of like that. So it's set. Your game is, I would say, it's set in Deep Lake in New Mexico.
Yes. The game is set in a fictional town called Deep Lake, New Mexico. This is, for folks who don't know, this is like the southwestern part of the United States. And so it's like just north of Mexico, a lot of desert, lots of wide open space. Towns are very far spaced apart. So like you're kind of isolated when you're in that part of the country. You can drive for like, I've made that drive. You can drive for like hundreds of miles and not see another car, right? Like it's very remote, right? So yeah, it's in this like remote desert setting of Deep Lake. But importantly, this town is where this TV station was supposed to have been. This TV station that these characters remember. They were kids in Deep Lake, and they remember watching this TV station, but the TV station like kind of vanished, and no one talks about it or remembers it. And
now, imagine you and a group of friends are coming back into the small town because you think that there was something here which people lost, and you're coming back into the small town and hunting the reason why these Odyssey tapes are showing up and why this TV Odyssey was lost in the first place.
Yeah.
The thing about it is when these characters get to Deep Lake, this is the summer of 2004. These are characters in their 20s. They're all kind of like just kind of getting started in their lives, you know, and their careers or whatever. And they kind of pause it to go spend the summer in this little town with this strange mystery. When they get there, they actually don't have a lot of luck when they first get there. When the game starts, they've been there for a few weeks and nothing's really happening. They're just kind of like not getting anywhere. But then the game really kicks off when they finally find one of these tapes that has one of the shows on it. And then in addition to that, they learn about another mystery in the town. And that's actually kind of the main part of the gameplay is there are different mysteries that are maybe connected to the TV station, maybe not, but they're like other weird mysteries that the characters get wrapped up in. And that's kind of the main thing you're doing in the game is investigating these other weird mysteries and
Kind of like
seeing
Monster of the Week.
it's very Monster of the Week. Yeah. It's very episodic in that sense. Yeah.
One big overarching thing.
That's exactly right. Yeah, that's exactly right. And so so they kind of get caught up in that. And in the midst of that, periodically they interact with this character called the Big Man. And the Big Man also is kind of like the narrator of the campaign because in between sessions, he occasionally appears on screen and kind of says something cryptic or recaps the events of what's going on, you know, for the viewer at home, you know. It's very meta in that way.
Who the hell's the Big Man?
The Big Man is an interesting character. It's, you know, it's really hard to say who or what he is. Many fans of my games believe he is a character that has appeared in the other games in different forms. Many people think he is a devil or an angel. Some people think he is himself a being from another dimension. Some people think he is that he's a person from history unstuck in time. We don't know what exactly he is, right? That's the fun of the game. That's part of the fun of the game is the keeper has this character, the Big Man, who kind of just shows up periodically, says weird things. Sometimes it seems like he's kind of helping the latchkeys. That's what we call player characters, the latchkeys. He's kind of helping the latchkeys. Maybe he's not. It's a little unclear. But yeah, he's just this really great, fun character that the keeper gets to play. And that's actually one of the things that we're really beefing up in this new edition of the game, is giving a lot more support for like how to play the Big Man, more quotes. Just structurally, the Big Man is like a bigger part of the game, especially like, so it used to be you would just do a little Big Man scene like maybe a couple of times in the campaign, like after the session, but now you do one after every single session. And so he's like a much bigger kind of like presence in the game. He's kind of the mascot of public access, I guess is the way I would put it. And he's the kind of character that the players love. Like they like love the Big Man, right? Like whenever the Big Man shows up, everyone's like locked in and at the edge of their seat and ready to go, you know? So yeah, but I don't know what he is. I don't know who he is. It's up for players to figure out. So
Yeah, that's such a GM thing to say. I love it. I don't know. Fuck around and find out.
Let's find out. Yeah.
I don't know if you have seen The Expanse, the TV series.
I started it and I never, for some reason I got distracted. I think I canceled my Prime membership, so I never finished it.
Good for you.
Yeah, it was years ago.
So this reminds me of a character from The Expanse, Detective Joseph Miller. I think he was like kind of like detective figuring out what has happened. And then one season later, like there's a gap of a season, then the next season he comes back as a ghost.
Oh.
And he kind of like not a ghost, not a force ghost, but almost like a projection that the quote unquote aliens are beaming into this protagonist's mind.
My name is Margaret Lanterman. I live in Twin Peaks. I am known as the Log Lady. There is a story.
This kind of character is, you know, I took a lot of inspiration from similar types of characters in other media, right? I've never seen The Expanse, but that sounds exactly like what I've described. But you might imagine, for example, if you've seen Twin Peaks,
I still haven't.
Okay, you ought to. It's really good. But there's a character in Twin Peaks called the Log Lady, and the Log Lady, her role in the story is not entirely clear. She has a little log that she talks to, that she carries around like a baby, but importantly, before every episode, she talks directly to the viewer and kind of gives a little like monologue about weird cosmic events, and because Twin Peaks is a very like kind of cosmic horror kind of show, right? So the Log Lady is a great analog. Actually, lots of David Lynch movie characters are very similar to this, like the sort of like stranger from Lost Highway and different characters like that. Also, I would say any type of like narrator type character. So like who kind of talks directly to the viewer. So like the Rod Serling in the Twilight Zone, or the Crypt Keeper in like Tales from the Crypt, like that kind of figure, Elvira, right? Like that kind of character who in a meta way talks to the audience, and kind of like helps bring the audience in. That's what the big man serves. That's the role the big man serves in this game too,
Kind of like Jonathan Frakes in Beyond Belief.
Have you ever walked out of a mall into a huge parking area and realized you'd forgotten where you parked your car?
Ever gone mountain biking?
What do you want to be when you grow up? What's the right tip?
Have you called a plumber to your home lately? How superstitious are you?
How much money would it take to make you spend a night in a cemetery?
Yeah. Oh yeah. That's not bad. Yeah. That's pretty close. Yeah. It's this idea of like, but importantly, like they're in the fiction too. Like I am a character who is in the fiction, but I'm also occasionally breaking character or breaking the fourth wall and talking to the audience as well. But in this case, in the case of public access, it's the audience is the players, right? But or I suppose if you're doing an AP, it's also the people watching the AP. But no, it's a fun dynamic. It's a really great like. It's a fun tool to sort of like, because sometimes you just need to like move things along, or you need to like get the players to do a certain thing, or you need to like kind of move the action along to a certain place. And the big man is kind of your way of doing that. The big man kind of can come in and kind of shape things and move things, and explain things that maybe need explained, but almost never in a super direct way. So, yeah.
By the way, if you have liked what you've seen so far, or what I've told you about the game, or what Jason has told you about the game, I think there are some actual plays you should check out.
I started listening to the first campaign you ran of public access.
Like on my YouTube channel?
On your YouTube channel.
Oh, wow. Okay.
That's what I started.
Yeah.
But it was the most raw campaign, raw in a good sense. I'm like, okay, we're not going to do anything flashy music or anything. We're just going to go into the game itself. How does this game play? It's just a simple Zoom recording. That's what it is. That's all what you're going to get, and you're going to enjoy it. And I did, actually. I'll admit I haven't watched the full campaign, but in preparation for this, I was like, okay, I unfortunately did not have the time to play public access. Yes, I have read it. And I'm like, okay, reading it is not enough. I don't have the time to play it. Let me watch an actual play of how it's being played. And a few people have ran public access online. But for me, my reference was, you know what, let's go back to the source.
Right.
I'm going to go back to the source.
I really like the, if you have a chance, I think the one that we did last year with the Bad Spot YouTube channel is really good. That's
that's next on my list. Like, if I stop watching your actual play, I'm going to shift to the Bad Spot.
I mean, I'm on that one too. It's just like I'm running that one also, but it's the new rules though, which is nice.
Yeah, that's also we'll get into that.
One of the best things that Jason has done when it comes to Carved from Brindlewood system is that the GM doesn't predetermine what the solution for that mystery is. The players, they have a set of questions, or rather they have a set of clues, and they have to come up with a solution for that, which is, like Jason said, it makes for endless replayability, which is very essential to a game where things aren't so predetermined. When you have a certain predetermined thing in a game, or rather in a campaign, then you're almost always logged into it, logged into the solution, because then it comes upon the GM to, oh, let me try something different with these sets of players. Let me try something different with these sets of players. But no, when you have a system which allows for the players themselves thinking of a solution, then as long as the players change, the solutions will change automatically. Another thing I really love is the way the game is structured. Rather than, okay, you're just sitting together and making a story up. The way the game is structured is almost roguelike. It's almost like a board game roguelike. I know I'm throwing out random terms at you, but I truly am impressed by the way the housekeeping section is in the dawn and the dusk phase, and especially the way or certain periods during which players have to answer a question or resolve a move, which allows for a lot of structure in a way that, okay, the GM has to conduct a session and these are the checkpoints that the GM has to hit, and it's written into the game because that's how the game is played, rather than just react to whatever the players are doing throughout the game. No, it doesn't have to be that way. You don't just have to be the conductor. You can be a facilitator but still feel like you're accomplishing something because you're managing the whole system.
When reading through the book and reading or actually watching the actual play itself, I had such a fun time because, like, okay, what's going to happen next? And at this point, we're going to go into how you actually structured this game, because that's something I particularly enjoyed with, like, the phases that you set up. It's not just like a day phase or night phase that you go from dawn to day to dusk to night,
Right.
and every phase has a purpose. It almost has a more board game feel to it.
I can see that. Yeah.
Like, okay, this is the next phase. Now we do this. Now we do that. But in still a very collaborative way. So, like, was there a thought behind it? Like, okay, I want this to be structured in this way. Like, this has to happen now, and this has to happen now, mechanically, or was it more thematically?
I'm a big believer in structure in game design anyway. I just think that role-playing games are easier to play and they're easier to get everyone in the same headspace and to do what they're supposed to be doing if there's like a nice structure to follow along with. It is something that we can kind of learn from board games, right? Like, things happen at a certain time, there are rules, and if you follow those rules, you should get to a certain type of outcome, you know? But public access's structure, there is a thematic connection there too, right? Because the daytime in general is safer for the characters. They don't have as much, they're not in as much danger. They can kind of roam around however they want to, investigate however they want to. But then at nighttime, it changes, right? And so that's very on genre too. Like, when you're thinking of like the horror genre, you expect the night to be scarier and harder than the day, right? And so there's it's kind of part thematic and part genre, but also very much just I like a structured, just like a gameplay structure. I just think it's like, you know, I like to, like, okay, we're in this little box right now, and this is what we do in this box, and now we move into this one, and here's what we do, and you get used to it, and everyone starts to anticipate what's supposed to happen in each phase and how they should be preparing for it, and I just think it leads to better story.
That's the part I struggle with the most, is structuring and pacing. And I feel like a lot of GMs who are up and coming or who want to, I think that's something where they struggle as well. What do you think about that?
Oh, I agree completely. And I consider myself a GM's game designer, right? Like, I design for GMs because I'm a forever GM by choice. I want to be a forever GM. I like to GM. I like to run games. I like to facilitate games. And so I think a lot about that whenever I'm creating games. So all of my games, the Carved from Brindlewood line of games, like Brindlewood Bay, The Between, Public Access, they have a lot of keeper support built into them, right? And in fact, we're getting ready to kickstart this new edition of Public Access that has even more keeper support built in. Like, that's like whenever I do the kind of like the physical kickstarted version or crowdfunded version of a book, it always has more keeper support. Like, that's the part I always kind of beef up in the chapters. I think that there's a lot of there's a lot to be said about the structure that kind of helps support keepers. That's what we call GMs in these games, to help support keepers in public access. But also, there's a lot about just the way the mechanics and the way you interact with the mechanics that support the keeper a lot, right? Like, there's a lot of the world building is given to the players to do, and so they have to answer certain types of questions, or they have to engage with certain types of world building flashbacks, or in the case of public access, watching the creepy tapes. Like, that's all player authored stuff, and so it really does take a lot off of the keeper. Even just like the sort of like conflict resolution, you do this day or night move, and the day or night move starts with the player saying, here's what I'm scared is going to happen if I fail, or here's what I'm scared is going to happen if I lose my nerve right now. And they get to say what they're scared of for their character. And then sometimes in the night move, the keeper gets to say, and here's how it's worse. And so already just the mere fact that the players are participating in setting the stakes takes a lot of pressure off the keeper, right? And the fact that the players help build the world out at certain times helps the keeper. So yeah, these are very like GM friendly games. One of my favorite things, I get a message like this at least once every couple weeks. Someone telling me Brindlewood Bay was the first game I ever ran, and it was amazing. Like, I felt so confident doing it, and so thank you. And I love that. Like, that's like my favorite kind of message to get,
I especially love like the confidence with which you approach like players. Okay, now what happens? And it's almost like you're giving not just pressure of I think, and that's built into the game as well, of not just a pressure of for the players to come up with something, but also kind of like asking them leading questions.
Yes. Yeah. Like give me something, give me something good that I can use, like that's and I like to think that like, I do think I'm a pretty good GM, and I like to think that like, if you follow the advice and the structures of my games, like, you're going to get really close to that too, right? Like because a lot of the things that I do just sort of naturally as a GM is codified and built into the actual structure of the game. And so, yeah, it's and it's the kind of stuff that you can take with you to any game, right? Like, there's no reason why it has to live in just our games,
Coming to how the game is played and some major change and some changes they have done for the actual release or the game. By the way, if anybody, is it still pay what you want on drive-through?
It is, yeah. Mm-hmm.
So if anybody wants to play like kind of like, I would say, the alpha or the beta version of the game,
it's a full game, so just go get it. Game. Yeah.
I mean, they can still like get it and play it a whole campaign even without getting the Kickstarter, and it's the full game. So yeah, if anybody wants to check it out, it's still out there. As long as Jason wills it.
Yeah. Well, and there'll also be like a kind of like, if you don't want to deal with drive-through, on the Kickstarter page there'll be a link for like a preview version of the game too, so you can go and play it for a little bit. Like it's a very like it's basically the whole rule book of the old edition essentially. So yeah.
Kind of similar way which what you did with the Between as well.
Exactly right. Yeah, we made the older edition like a quick start essentially, or like a preview. Yeah.
So very quickly we're gonna go into how actually the game is played, because we've discussed the themes, the inspirations, the touchstones. We're going to talk a little bit about the game and how it is played. One thing I found really I would say weight off my shoulders is tell the players what the mystery's name is. You don't have to like keep everything below behind the screen. Just tell them what it is. You're going into this mystery, you're going into that. It's kind of like you're part of a TV show and exploring what episode you're in. This is the episode title, and we're in this episode. What does the title mean? What's going to happen? So, if I can summarize from what I understand, you have these young people in their 20s who have come back to the town of Deep Lake after discussing on forums like, hey, what happened to TV Odyssey? And after coming to town, they get help, or they are requisitioned to help with mysteries.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you go through different phases: the dawn, day, dusk, and night. The longest of which I assume is the day phase, which is like your
It is.
typical session, I'm assuming. And you clearly mentioned that the dawn and dusk phase are more like resolution phases.
Just housekeeping, yeah, and setup. Yeah.
Okay. And they go through these moves and they answer questions with regards to the mystery, depending upon the complexity of the mystery, depending and how much clues they uncover. They can answer the questions, and is it when they answer a certain number of questions they can resolve the mystery entirely?
So the way it works is, so the Carved from Brindlewood mystery system is there are these mysteries, right? And so in the very first mystery that most people will play is called the House on Escondido Street. And that's a mystery about this house in town in Deep Lake where the family 10 years ago just vanished. Like no one knows what happened to them. They just vanished off the face of the earth. And a friend of the family goes to the latchkeys and says, hey, I heard you're looking into like mysteries in town. Well, here's one. What do you think of this? And so now they're off to the races looking into this mystery of this family. And the question that they have to answer is what happened to the family, right? And it has a complexity score. I think it's maybe 6 on that one. I don't recall. But basically, you gather clues. The clues can be found wherever the characters are looking. It's not like these mysteries are very like kind of like basically the keeper doesn't have the solution to the mystery. The keeper doesn't know what the answer is. The characters are going to find clues, and then the players are going to engage in some deduction once they have enough clues, and they're going to talk about what they think happened based off the clues they have and based off the whole story that's happened up to that point. And then once they come up with a good solution that they're happy with, depending on how many number of clues they incorporated into their theory, that affects the die roll that they get to make, right? It's basically like kind of the complexity of the question. The die roll's made at minus the complexity, and every clue that you work into your theory adds 1. So you get enough clues into your theory and you get to overcome that deficit, right? Anyway, you're going to roll to see if you're correct, and if you're correct, that unlocks the opportunity. The associated opportunity then is, in the case of the House on Escondido Street, it's resolve the mystery by telling Casey, the person who brought you the mystery, telling Casey what happened, and then if you wish, destroy the house, because the house is actually quite evil. and so that's how these games work. There's questions and opportunities, and so you gather clues, you talk about the solution, you roll some dice. If you're correct, you get to pursue the opportunity. If you're not correct, or if you roll kind of in the middle, the keeper will make a hard reaction against you to make the story more interesting. They'll put you in danger. They'll do something really tough. And at a basic level, that's how it works, right? In my first game, Brindlewood Bay, it didn't have the question and opportunity structure, but what it did have, but it was kind of hidden. In that game, it was always the same question and the same opportunity. The question is always who did the murder, and the opportunity was always bring them to justice, right? But then in the between, it expands into all kinds of things, right? In public access, it's all kinds of things that the characters can investigate. But the idea here is the key to the Carved from Brindlewood mystery system is it's collaborative, right? Like, the keeper does not know the answer to the question. The group is going to find out the answer together as they talk about it.
Yeah, but I think you developed that in the between, and you took it, you expanded on that this time as well. Sometimes the GMs, not sometimes, a lot of times GMs can be like very bogged down. Oh, I have to make this interesting for my players. Oh, I have to like make this really cool.
Well, and in a traditional mystery game, they have to also remember where all the clues are and where the what the character, like where everything is, how it's all structured. Like, that's a lot to do, you know. In my games in public access, the keeper, all you have to do is just focus on reacting to whatever the players are doing. That's it, you know.
It makes it so easy.
Yeah.
Also, another thing, I don't think this game works very well as a one-shot.
It's not the best one-shot. No.
It's a very quick one-shot, and you'll be stuck wanting for more. I'm like, this is not enough.
I like to run it in 2 a 2-shot at least. Like whenever I do it like for a stream or something, like I'll run it in a 2-shot. I insist on that. In fact, whenever somebody asks me to run a game for them, for their channel, because I think that's enough time to do a whole mystery. But I still run it as if we were going to be playing forever, or for a long time, because for one thing, I just think that it's kind of fun to show like what might happen, like, oh, this is what could be, like if you were to keep playing, this is what it would be like, right? So yeah, I never adapt the games to be a quote 1-shot or a one-off game. But no, my games are very much campaign games, but they are campaigns that end, right? Like they, public access, especially in this new edition, the campaign is probably about 15 sessions of play. You can expand it a little bit with this new style of mystery called a lost transmission, which is kind of a side mystery. But even if you expand it with some lost transmissions, you're probably looking at maybe 20 sessions total. And so that's a good amount of time to tell this story, I think. So it's a campaign, but it's like a campaign that ends. It's a short campaign, I guess.
What if I want to create my own mystery?
Go for it.
What would be like, the advice or like the thing that you would say to like somebody who's like, oh, I like the mysteries that Jason has wrote, but I have an idea that I want to run.
For public access, I think you should really think about the game's themes and the game's genres that it's playing with. I think that's a good place to start. The themes of public access are very much nostalgia, childhood memory, how childhood memory and nostalgia betray you, childhood trauma. Those are the big themes of public access, right? And then the genre, analog horror. If you get into the actual individual mysteries, it's a lot of like mysteries inspired by classic horror movies or like books. So I think if you are having your mystery, if it's inspired by some kind of other media, some kind of movie you love, some kind of song you love, some kind of thing, some story you love, and then you kind of are able to work in this notion of like nostalgia and memory, I think you're off to the races at that point. I've had a lot of people like something that a lot of people ask me about or ask the Gauntlet community about is it possible to like set the game in another place? Because this is often people who are like maybe not from America or maybe not even like, or they're Americans, but they're not familiar with the Southwest. And so they think that like, oh, I'm not sure if like my players would like be able to like connect with that setting because none of us know that setting. But I actually think that there's something to be said about running it in the setting in Deep Lake, because Deep Lake is kind of an alien setting anyway. It's a very strange place. It's a weird place.
Like Night Vale.
Yeah, it's like Night. It is. It's a lot like Night Vale, right? And so it's like that's part of the fun of it. Like it's almost like a benefit that your group doesn't really know anything about New Mexico, right? And so
they're finding out.
Yeah. But that said, I do think there's something interesting. I do think there's like a cool reskin there, right? Where it's like, okay, we take the game and like we take the basic mechanics, and like you said, instead of 2004, maybe it's like 2000. It's the podcast boom. It's 2016, right? And instead of a TV station, it's an old radio station. Like you could see like how you could kind of like switch it up and stuff, like you can still kind of like and still kind of use the basic like structures and stuff to make it work. I'd but no, my game though is about an old TV station.
Your game's amazing, man. I mean, like, and while reading through it, I'm like, okay, I'm a huge fan of queer horror stories.
Sure.
Because they do horror stories like no other. Stephen King doesn't have a dime on them.
I mean, I'm a big Stephen King fan, but yeah, I hear you.
I am too. I am too. But like queer horror stories are like they go deep. They go like really deep, and I feel like there's so many like great queer horror stories that can be told with public access. With like even things like The Between, which I'm still waiting for, and I'm like,
yes, it's coming. The Between, The Between especially is a very, very like queer horror kind of game, right? In addition to being like a searing indictment of colonialism, it's also like a big like queer, horror kind of thing. So yeah, but no, there's definitely space for that. I mean, like as a gay man, like I I just naturally bake those things into the things I write because I write what I know, you know. But no, that's I hope people experience it that way. Yeah, that'd be great.
Also, we didn't mention like what are the big differences or like the additions to your base game that is there in the Kickstarter version.
Yeah, so the older edition, the one that people know, has been out for 3 years now, digitally, and about 2 years into its lifespan, we introduced this new playtest called Skinny Jeans. And the Skinny Jeans playtest was me trying out some different structures for the game and trying out some different, like a different campaign structure mainly. And so we kind of playtested that for a year. And now, 3 years later, almost to the date, in fact, I think Public Access came out almost 3 years exactly from today. We are now getting ready to do, we've taken all the learning from that 3 years and from that playtest of the Skinny Jeans version, and I've kind of taken that and I've made this new edition, which we're going to be kickstarting. We were actually planning on kickstarting it a little later in the year, but we had to bump it up because of Quinn's Quest doing a review of the game, and like that's like huge, right? Like you have to like kind of take advantage of that whenever it happens, and so because of Quinn's Quest, we're moving up the campaign a bit, but no, the biggest change I would say, and it's a good one, is so in the older edition of the game, which is still very playable and very fun, but in the older edition, the TV Odyssey mystery that was always like in the background. Like you played, you did all these other mysteries, and eventually you would get to the TV Odyssey mystery, right? And in this new, and it was fine, but it always kind of felt like it was in the background, like it wasn't really part of the action. In this new edition, now there's this new question that is always out there, the TV Odyssey question, which is what happened to TV Odyssey. And now whenever you watch the Odyssey tapes, whenever the characters watch the Odyssey tapes, they get to define a clue that is a clue for that TV Odyssey question, right? And so now we're getting like some mechanical connections to that, right? But also, whenever the players answer a question to another mystery, if they roll high enough, if they get like a 12 on the roll, then the answer to that question is also an Odyssey clue. And so what happens is all the things you were doing in the campaign, TV Odyssey is no longer in the background. TV Odyssey is right in the middle of it, and everything you're doing connects up to it. And so the overall experience, I've run the new edition twice now, the full campaigns that is, the overall experience is one where everything feels very tightly connected, very coherent, and it's very satisfying actually. Like on some level, I'm kind of pissed that this is not the game I wrote to begin with, but you know, whatever. You get to places how you get to places, right? But no, this is it. Like this is like the way I want the game to be. Like it feels like one interconnected thing, and it feels great. So that's the biggest change. It's a significant change. There's also been a lot of changes just in terms of like how the campaign structure kind of flows. And so basically just highlighting certain things a little better, really focusing more on the latchkey's childhood trauma and their bad memories of childhood and their good memories, making the overall experience much more cinematic. Like there's been lots of like tightening and reframing of things. And this new edition, you know, the old edition is fantastic and very playable and people love it, but this new edition is like it's like the perfect version. Yeah.
Now for the Kickstarter campaign, although we're still waiting for the Betweens books, which I'm also waiting for, Jason has arranged it in a way that we can still get it around next year. So what do the delivery dates look like for public access?
So I always promise this, and I'm almost always wrong. But I will do my best to give an accurate thing here.
Give me the last not
the.
You know what?
Here's the thing. Here's the thing about public access. I don't have like 20 playbooks to write for this game, and so a playbook based game introduces all kinds of development issues because it's like every playbook is like a whole new rule set basically, right? So that we do not have that in public access. Public access, it's one character sheet. So it should be pretty speedy. We're setting a physical book delivery date by June 2027. That's about right, because once we get things off to the printers, it takes us about 3 or 4 months to actually get it out into mailboxes. And so I would expect we're going to have the final PDF of this new edition of public access by, I would say probably March or April of 2027. So a year from now, basically. But having said that, if you're in the Gauntlet Discord, especially, I constantly share here's all the things, here's new things, here's in development things, drafts of things. And so we're also going to have we have a stretch goal that I'm pretty sure we're going to hit, but so I'll just talk about it as if it's a real thing, even though it's technically a stretch goal. But we're creating a companion app for the game. We created one such app for The Between, which we're playtesting right now. And then we have another one for my upcoming game, The Lands Remaining. And this app is so great because the app basically has a lot of the things you need to play the game baked into it. And it makes it so that you can run the game face-to-face or online and use this same tool. It's pretty terrific. And so that app will be ready way ahead of the books. And so you'll be able to kind of get going on the new edition even before you have the books, right? We always try to long before you have the books, you can still play the games, right? We're very play oriented in the Gauntlet. And so I always try to create the Between app. I created that app, or I asked it, had it created because I want people to start playing the new hunters right away. I don't want them to be waiting on the printer. Right? I want them to get going right now. So yeah, I wouldn't worry about that part of it. You'll be able to play the new game pretty quickly. But no, we've set we've given ourselves a date of June 2027 for book shipments. So we'll see. I'm famously bad at hitting my deadlines, but we'll try.
Are these separate apps, or is it going to be under one app?
There's each game has a different app. So The Between has its own app. The Lands Remaining has an app. If we hit this stretch goal for public access, we'll make one for public access. And then for The Between, each of the little sub games in The Between, the Sons of Another World games, they'll each have an app too. So yeah, but the idea is these apps are great because they work on desktop or mobile, and what they are is they allow you to kind of, every time you create, when you create your character or make a change or find a clue or whatever, it's shared with everybody, so everybody gets to see it in real time, right? And which is great, and they're just really slick too. They each different character has their, in the case of The Between, each of the hunters has their own little personalized interface that works differently for that hunter, that kind of thing. So it's very, very slick. And we're always at the Gauntlet, we're always thinking about how do we minimize friction so that people can just play these games, right? We're always thinking about that. And so this is what we've landed on for these games. And so that app will be out pretty shortly after the campaign is over, because it's already in development. Like I said, I'm pretty sure we're going to hit the stretch goal. So yeah, we'll have that to look forward to, even way before the game is done. So that'll be something to look forward to for sure.
All in all, I'm sold on this game. I've watched enough actual plays to think it's really cool, and I have been a fan of the card from Brindlewood system, so much so that I've also designed my own game, which is going to be coming out on +1 EXP pretty soon. If you're a member of the Zine Club, you will get it automatically. And there'll be an actual play on Pantsless tables as well. It's called Monsters Ate My Homework. And the Kickstarter for public access is still funding for the next 18 days. So get on that hype train. There are so many stretch goals which have already been unlocked, including a free app. I think it's free. A free app that has all the details of the campaigns that will be there. So yeah, get on that hype train. The more you fund it, the more stretch goals apparently will be unlocked, the more they make it. And what better news for the indie RPG scene. And so I'll see you in the next one.